If you want to dominate, some things that you can apply right away, some things that you can work towards, but if you develop all 5 of these, you're just going to notice that you have consistent performances, MVP performances, and just be one of the best players on the pitch most times. That's coming up next. So before we jump into it, my name is Dave and this is Simplysoccer, where I am creating videos every single week to help you improve your game and stand out on the pitch. Now, something that can help you do that is to get my free ebook Game Changer down below in the description. It is a full comprehensive 50+ page ebook that will help take your game to the next level. Now let's jump right into what these 5 match habits are, with number 5 going in reverse order, and that is unwavering confidence. I talk about confidence all of the time because it is so crucial to being an impact player, a player who stands out. A player who doesn't believe in themselves is just not going to have consistent performances. But when a player is confident, not arrogant, but confident in their ability, confident and believing in themselves, they just have better performances. And again, this is something you can work on. Players that are in Complete Soccer Confidence, which is my training program that does specifically this, have seen the differences between not being confident and being confident on the pitch, and it's a world of difference. It helps unlock your potential. It helps you even train better so that you get better faster and faster, and you can check that out down below as well. But develop your confidence, work on this, learn how to do it, because it's just going to be so valuable to you. If you get one player with a certain skill level, and even if another player has higher skill level, if this guy's not confident and this guy is, he's going to perform better. Number 4 is getting over mistakes quickly. Now you'll notice this at the professional game. A lot of players, they'll make a mistake and they won't go and harp on about it. They'll move on pretty quickly. They might react or do something quickly, but 5, 10, 15 seconds later, they're over it, at least for the most part, at least the very best. And this is something you want to learn to do. Yes, you want to be aware of your mistakes so you can work on them and then improve them. But in the game itself is not the time to analyze your mistake and go into the nitty-gritty of it and be like, I'm going to do this in my training session next time. You want to get over it quickly and get back into the flow of the game. A lot of players, what happens? They make a mistake 10 minutes in and they take themselves out of the game mentally for the rest of the game. If you can get over mistakes quickly, it is going to help you have better performances, consistent performances, where you're not just, making a mistake and then taking yourself out of the game. So if you're enjoying this video so far, hit that like button if it resonates with you or you're getting something out of it. Now let's move on to number 3, which is learn your opponent's weaknesses and then use your strengths to exploit them. This is something I would do all the time being a striker. I would look throughout the first 5 or 10 minutes of the game to see if I could notice some of the weaknesses of the players I was coming up against. Like, for example, do they get way too tight on me every time, or do they back off? Are they really weak going to one side? Are they slow and maybe I can outpace them? And believe it or not, I actually can outpace some people. I'm not the fastest, but sometimes I can, right? Or I'll look and see, what are their tendencies? What do they tend to do? And when you come up against really good players, this is hard to figure out, but you can still look for it. Do they get nervous when you do a certain thing, right? And then use your strengths to exploit that. For example, one of my strengths was my movement in the box, the runs I would make, and being able to take players one-on-one and get a shot off. And so I would notice, do players back off when I run at them? Are players coming fast at me and I can turn them, right? Look for their weaknesses with the players you're playing against directly and see if you can exploit that using your strength. Again, this is just being more strategic about it, and it's something that pros do all the time. They look at players, they look who they're coming up against, and they usually do this before games because they usually know a lot about the players they're coming up against, but you might not always have that information. So you want to make sure you're just paying attention those first 5, 10, 15 minutes. Are there obvious weaknesses in some of the players you're coming up against, and can you exploit them using your strengths? Again, for example, there might be a player who's just really not good at 1v1 defending, or is very rash and just goes in quick every single time, and you can turn them easily, leave them in the dust, and get them to commit fouls. You want to look out for that, and then again, use your strengths against them to exploit their weaknesses. Number 2 is be decisive. I can't tell you how many players are indecisive when they're playing, and that causes them to make mistakes or miss opportunities, which I would also kind of put in the category of making mistakes. Now, this doesn't mean being rash. Being decisive doesn't mean always playing quick. That's not what it means. It means being very confident in your decision making. Will you make mistakes sometimes? Absolutely. Remember, bounce back from those mistakes, but be decisive. follow your instincts. Again, as a striker, if I'm not decisive in front of goal, guess what? I'm not scoring many goals. But when I listen to my instincts, I make a decision and I execute it, I score more, I create more, I play better. So learn how to be decisive, practice being that way in your training. Yes, there'll be some situations where you're able to think about it more and you realize, okay, I shouldn't play that ball, it's too risky, this and that. But especially in fast-paced situations, especially in pressure situations, you're not going to really have that luxury and you're just going to have to trust yourself. So you want to be decisive for the most part. And again, if you become indecisive, you're going to miss opportunities. You're probably going to make mistakes. You're probably going to get in your own head and overanalyze things. So I would invite you to start learning how to be more decisive in your games. And number one is develop better on-pitch awareness. This is constantly looking and knowing where the space is that's available, where your teammates are, and where your opponents are. Some players, they switch off, but the best players stay tuned into the game throughout most of the game, and they exploit the players actually that are switched off. Like I said, exploit weaknesses. If you notice a certain player falls asleep and you can get a run in on them, or you can kind of go into a pocket of space and they're not tracking you, or whatever it is, you know, you can take advantage of that. But when you improve your awareness and you start knowing where everything is, and this can improve any position, by the way. As a striker, having a higher football IQ, which can be developed, you know, is something that's going to help you stand out in your matches. Absolutely, being a smart player. And when you're aware of what's happening on the pitch, you can make smarter decisions, which are going to lead to you having more of a good, positive impact for your team. So again, make sure you're working on that. Constantly be improving your football IQ. Be tuned in and focused in the match. Don't switch off. Even at the highest level, this happens to some players, but if you can stay tuned into the flow, not switch off, not get caught out of position, but catch other players out of position, you know, it's just going to help your performances by a long way. Speaking of awareness, I would go watch this video next where I go over some habits that are going to cause you to stop losing the ball in football. You want to be getting the ball a lot, especially in certain positions, and I go over videos that will help you do that. But then if you're losing it, it's all